وعزيمة ونهج السلام. نحن أسياد البحار بخطانا المجد سار. نحن أسياد البحار بخطانا المجد سار. نحن رمز للفخر عزمنا الكون أنا. عزمنا الكون أنا وهذه شعاره بأعلى منارة. مجد وحضارة وإرث عظيم عماني شعاره بأعلى منارة. مجد وحضارة وإرث عظيم ويقول العماني هذا زماني بهمة وعزيمة ونهج السلام. نحن أسياد البحار بخطانا المجد سار. نحن أسياد البحار بخطانا المجد سار. نحن رمز للفخر عزمنا الكون أنا. عزمنا الكون أنا وهذه شعاره بأعلى منارة. مجد وحضارة وإرث عظيم عماني شعاره بأعلى منارة. مجد وحضارة وإرث عظيم ويقول العماني هذا زماني بهمة وعزيمة ونهج السلام. نحن أسياد البحار بخطانا المجد سار. نحن أسياد البحار بخطانا المجد سار. نحن رمز للفخر عزمنا الكون أنا. عزمنا الكون أنا وهذه شعاره بأعلى منارة. مجد وحضارة وإرث عظيم عماني شعاره بأعلى منارة. مجد وحضارة وإرث عظيم ويقول العماني هذا زماني بهمة وعزيمة ونهج السلام. نحن أسياد البحار بخطانا المجد سار. نحن أسياد البحار بخطانا المجد سار. نحن رمز للفخر عزمنا الكون أنا. عزمنا الكون أنا وهذه شعاره بأعلى منارة. مجد وحضارة وإرث عظيم عماني شعاره بأعلى منارة. مجد وحضارة وإرث عظيم ويقول العماني هذا زماني بهمة وعزيمة ونهج السلام. أسياد البحار يا مان بخطانا المجد سار يا مان نحن أسياد البحار يا مان بخطانا المجد سار يا مان نحن رمز للفخر عزمنا الكون أنا عزمنا الكون أنا عواني شعاره بأعلى منارة مجد وحضارة وإرث عظيم عماني شعاره بأعلى منارة مجد وحضارة وإرث عظيم ويقول العماني هذا زماني بهمة وعزيمة ونهج السلام. نحن أسياد البحار يا مان بخطانا المجد سار يا مان.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of those who are joining us across the time zone. We would like to welcome you to ASIAD Group Q HSSC number 15 webinar this year, which is being presented throughout the year and even the last year. I am Ahmed Al-Rawahi. I am a Group Q HSSC manager, and I will be delighted to facilitate today's webinar with my guest speakers, celebrating, of course, the International Maritime Organization for the World Maritime Day. As you might be knowing by now, is the theme this year is new technologies for greener shipping. Of course, this kind of a theme reflects the need to support the green transition for the shipping, and it has to be supported from the government perspective and by the ship owners and also by those who are involved in the industry at a general. I feel privileged today to welcome you as an audience and greeting you to register with us in this webinar. And please welcome with me the guest speakers. In my right hand, I'll be just introducing them, starting with Captain Mohit Sabrawal.
Good morning.
Good morning to you,
Ahmed.
who is the IMO consultant for air pollution from ships and greenhouse gases and CO2 emission. Captain Mohit is a master mariner and a qualified Lloyd's lead auditor for integrated management system. With more than 3 decades, he has been extensively involved in emissions monitoring and also reporting energy optimization projects and digitizing the marine industry. Welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you
Thank
for
you very
accepting
much
our invitation.
for having me here.
Thank
Very
you.
nice to be on board with you all.
Thank you so much. My second guest speaker is Dr. Ibrahim Nadiri. We kidnapped him from another meeting that he has involved in, but thanks to you to accept our invitation to spare this time. Dr. Ibrahim Nadiri is the CEO of ASIAD Shipping and ASIAD Dry Dock. He has undergone extensive executive training at INSEAD. He is a UK qualified chief engineer with a PhD in shipbuilding and logistics. He has over 20 years of experience in leadership, business development, performance improvement, and change management. Welcome, Dr. Ibrahim.
Thank you, Ahmed, and I look forward.
Thank you so much. I feel also honored to welcome my third guest speaker, who is His Excellency Professor Talal Al-Ulaqi, who is a lecturer at Sultan Qaboos University and also a visiting lecturer at NTNU, Toronto University. Professor Talal is a specialist in acid gas emission, spending a career into satellite remote sensing and measurement and verification of the emission across the industrial value chain. He has a PhD in energy engineering, licensed as carbon emission auditing, focusing on emission reduction in principles of Kyoto Protocol and IMO. Welcome, Professor, and thank you for accepting our invitation in quite a short time also.
Thank you, Ahmed, and thank you to ASIAD and to all the team. I look forward for the discussion.
Thank you so much. Back to you, dear audience. Please share your thoughts in a Q&A chat box that is located at Zoom, who is joining us through Zoom. And those who are joining us through Microsoft Teams and also the LinkedIn, please, if you can share your thoughts and your questions as well, if you can, through the Zoom, or we can collect it in a timely manner from time to time from the LinkedIn and from other platforms as well. So to spare the time and to benefit from this opportunity, now I will start with Captain Mohit. I think we don't need to give a warm-up introductory questions.
Yes.
I think we will directly hit to the big subject, as before this webinar even I just received a number of questions related to the IMO and related to the decarbonization. Not so often we find someone representing IMO. From time to time we find very rare people who are representing, but this is an opportunity today to welcome you to this webinar and to find also the questions from the audience.
Sure.
Well, my first clarification, it's related to a terminology frequently being used now in the website of the IMO related to a decade of action. So what does it mean, and why this is being called a decade of action by International Maritime Organization?
This is a very interesting thing, because it's going ahead in time. We need to understand the importance of these things which IMO has undertaken.
Right.
It is led actually from the 2015 UN declaration of the goals, which are called the SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals, right?
Exactly.
There are about 17 goals, and out of them we have 4 goals which have been identified also, which tune up to what the maritime industry requires.
Great.
So it's an initiative that is drawn out by the IMO that we will also go ahead and keep these goals in mind till 2030 to complete them. The goals being there's climate change. There is also technology partnerships and collaborations.
Great.
And then there is infrastructure, and of course there is sustainable use of oceans, right? So reduce littering. And these are all directly connected to the marine industry.
That's brilliant.
So
I think we spoke before this webinar that you have prepared some slides in
so
relation
I will be,
to the
of course, taking you through the
great.
through the slides.
So okay, I think we can see the slides then, starting from this first slide.
So thank you, Mr. Ahmed, and I'll take you through. So the aspects that we'll be covering a little bit, which I'll walk you through, are the standards that have been drawn out in perspective of what IMO's looking at doing in the next few years, and how the maritime industry would benefit from them, and what exactly are the variables or the vital performance indicators we have to look at, right? And how does the technology really complement this whole aim and goal?
Yes.
So if you look at it, IMO is the only organization who has adopted energy efficiency measures, right, globally. They've taken this initiative on their own. Actually, they were not even in the Paris requirement as mandate to do it, but this is an initiative which is a good initiative which is taken off, right? They call the decade of action, like Mr. Ahmed just asked. I think this will answer the question. We have certain goals which have been developed and which are taken into consideration during this 2020 to 2030, which is the decade of action. The path especially leads to the 4 development goals which were concluded in the 2015 UN convention, when 193 countries agreed that we are going to look at these goals being completed by 2030. And I hope we are there to do it as well, and we handhold and go along with our industry. These are industry, innovation and infrastructure, that's the goal number 9, and climate change, sustainable use of oceans, and partnerships. Partnerships also include collaborations, technology partnerships, and all sorts of partnerships that can be leading to greener environment and green tech, right?
Great.
2023 is the next year, which is called the IMO 2023, which is going to lead the show for the CII, and further on going ahead in time to formulate a path which will declare how we proceed in controlling the carbon emissions, right? and 2050 will lead to green voyage and blue economy. That's the intention. Well, green voyage and blue economy, really speaking, is the way we are going to treat our environment, the way we are going to control our emissions, and how efficiently the economy is going to benefit from this, and also how well the complementing of both of them will take place, right? Now there are certain parameters that have been laid down as targets. So the target for the IMO is to reduce and control and decline the carbon emissions across the international shipping. The idea is to reduce the carbon emissions as per transport work, right? And there is a target set and aim that at least we should be able to reduce it by 40% in 2030 and 70% by 2050. And the benchmark or the goal originated from 2008 levels where we stood there.
Right.
So going further onto the GHG emissions, that is aimed to be reduced by 50%. That is the intention, right? So the companies, maritime industry, and it's a good thing to see that a lot of people and the stakeholders are coming together to honor this intent, which is very nice. And there is less resistance, there is more acceptance, and we've realized that the world needs this to be done. The IMO has set up 5 indicators which are to understand and to comprehend and how we are going to progress, which are the key parameters, right? These are the ones which track the efficiency of ships, and they're essential in the environment management system. So the basics of these parameters is very nice it should be understood in a simple manner so that we know what we are looking at, you know. So it starts when the vessel is designed. So after 2013, the vessels which are built, all the ships that are there was a design index that was created as per the technical efficiency of the ships, right? So as per the weight of the ship to go for a certain distance, the technical efficiency means the equipment that is launched on the vessels, how much emissions are they going to do, right? So there's a indicator that is set to state that, okay, these emissions are going to be at this level as per design. Now, not to forget the ships which were before 2013. So for that, the EEXI is there. That's the existing ship index, which comes to the ships before 2013. Then when we have the indexes in hand, which are the ratings which have been given for a particular ship, we also need to measure operationally how the vessel is performing. So the EEOI came into perspective that throughout the year we are going to monitor the operational efficiency of the vessels, and the ship is going to monitor each and every parameter during each voyage, how the ballast and the laden legs perform, and in the end of the year or every certain stage to improve themselves by utilizing the ships in a better manner, by controlling the emissions over periods of voyages, by reduction of ballast passages, increasing the laden passages, to create a utilization which makes sense for you to emit those and create those emissions, right? It should not be just that the vessels are standing static or they are under ballast voyages for longer periods or carrying extra weights, right, and not doing performance work. While EEOI stood for the operational indicator, the comparative to the EEDI and the EEXI was raised as the annual efficiency ratio. This is the one which is directly linked to the design index actually in comparative, because it also relates to the deadweight capacity of the vessels, right?
Yes, correct.
So it's more, we are talking about the ships and the marine industry. The ships are the core of the business, so the whole control of the emissions starts from this level, right? That's why it's about this. So the annual emissions, where the EEOI or the energy efficiency operational indicator takes care of the voyages, the AER measures the complete year's performance or complete period's performance. So it is the AER finally which then leads to carbon intensity indication or indicator, right? This is basically to measure that what exactly is the rating that the vessel is led to. So it's a nice thing to see that it is a score that it has been now captured. Earlier on it used to be only numbers. Now we have a scoring and a rating card, which is brilliant to understand, because I think every time you call up somewhere, they want you to give a feedback from 1 to 5.
Yes, correct.
So similarly, we've led to alpha to echo as far as the ship's emission ratings are concerned, which is the benefit of coming from AER. It basically also controls the cargo carrying capacity per nautical mile and
Yes,
advises you,
correct.
right? Idea is that, I mean, this is something which we are all aware of, and we've always seen. We cannot manage what you cannot measure, and if you can't measure it, we cannot improve it, right? So if we look at the key variables that factor in to the direct efficiency of vessels emissions and energy, these are the parameters which have to be controlled and looked at all the time to continuously monitor the efficiency, right? I think these are all clear. We do not need to understand, but these are the key parameters which affect the emissions. You can adapt simple and uncomplicated idea. The idea is to start at a basic level where the goals and KPIs and the teams can start off, right? And then you monitor it to create a continuous process of improvement. The fleet emissions should be monitored continuously and reduced. The capacity utilization must be enhanced. The hull resistance must be reduced. Port operate turnaround time should be always looked at and improved. EEOI and AER, lesser the better. That's how it runs. And the carbon intensity indicator ratings, well, it is acceptable to remain within the Alpha, Bravo, Charlie range rather than the D and E, because the SEAM Part 3, which is the IMO 2023, entails that the vessels must remain in ABC. If the 3 years consecutively rating D is analyzed, you need to review the SEAM plan and properly formulate your proceedings ahead, how you're going to perform.
And this is starting from next year onwards?
Yes, absolutely. From the 2023, everybody has to monitor this on a continuous process, right, and improvement. Not to forget the other aspects of bilge generations and sludge and refrigerant gases, sewage, grey water, which is also critical to marine environment, right, and needs to be always monitored and controlled. And there are simple solutions which you can adapt to utilize these things and keep them in control and improve. If you look at an ultimate green ship, well, there are a lot of options available to go ahead and create. It depends on where you want to start and how you want to go ahead, right? And what effect do they have on the whole perspective of carbon emission saving. You can see the power assistance, vessel designs, engine technology, optimizations. The investments do not always mean that you need to spend a lot of money. They mean you need to start somewhere, look at how you can best do it and how the implementation takes place, because all these investments finally lead to the reductions which are immense in percentage and affect the environment, right? And that's called the ultimate green ship, and that's the goal that we are leading to by 2050, and we got those. So does this answer your question about
the? Of course, yes. Shed the light, of course,
yes.
and the main critical items. And this is leading me to one critical aspect, especially when you talk about the efficiency.
Right.
And if we can apply it in reality, that can be answered by Dr. Ibrahim. If I can link one of the issues that you are talking about, the efficiency, and we can apply it on the new ships or existing ships or the second-hand ships. So, Dr. Ibrahim, from perspective of a top management, what is the strategy being followed to ensure the tradability of the fleet in light of adapting, of course, the new technologies, as has been mentioned by Captain Mohit, especially at the last slide when he just explored those list of technologies?
Yes. No, thank you very much, Captain. That was very, very detailed. I think in addition to what Captain Agrawal just mentioned, there's a lot of opportunities for the ship owners. And when I say for ship owners, if we consider ourselves, as I said, we are ship owners, and there are different plans that we need to activate. We can start slow, as Captain Agrawal mentioned. You know, there are things that we can do as of today, and there are things that we can do in the mid-term, and there are things that we can look for in the long term.
Correct.
So I will actually highlight all of these also in a small presentation that I have prepared. so that we can keep the audience
Yeah,
as well
of course.
engaged
Yeah,
with,
sure.
with us. Yeah. So my presentation will mainly focus on three main aspects, which is basically the first one will be technical, and I do apologize for those who are not technical, that by overwhelming them with a lot of technical information. I'll try to be as light as possible. And then there's also the opportunities that we have with when it comes to the fuel. And finally, what we are looking for and what we are planning as ASEAD to do in the future. So without further ado, I mean, we've been, Captain Agrawal already has highlighted the definition of the carbon intensity index.
Yeah.
But then maybe for me just to see what can a ship owner do as well as a charter from their perspective. So today as ship owners we can actually control the carbon intensity index or the CII. Basically we can go as easy as optimizing the operations and the speed of the ship together with the charter, where charter can actually also contribute. Because today when you want to reduce speed of a ship, then it has to be in compliance with the chartering agreement. And this is also one of the challenges. But what we've been also seeing nowadays, that there is a very positive step being taken by the charters to understand the need to reduce speed.
So
especially
you're
at this
talking about the
stage.
shared responsibility between the charter and the ship owner.
Exactly. So it goes everywhere. It's basically a teamwork that could start from a ship owner, but also the ship charter has to play a major role in order for this thing to come up with a good conclusion, or the reduction of emission that we are actually seeking. And there are areas that can be done. We could go into the technology efficiency, and things are right now being adopted in the industry. I mean, like the engine rating, where we derate the engine so that it just produces the minimum CO2 as possible, of course, and as practical to maintain the thing. There's also we can work into the propulsion itself. And when we say the propulsion, there are new technologies that can be adapted, as well as there are old technologies. Today, when we speak about the propellers, for example, there are many technologies that can be applied to the propeller of the ship that can actually help in reducing the CO2 emission. And this is widely used in the industry. And it's becoming now a norm for a ship. When it's built, it comes with some of these technologies as built-in options. So, and there's also the operational efficiency, as mentioned, and it could reduce between about 4 to 10% of emission. And this is mainly because you are reducing the fuel consumption. So once you reduce fuel consumption, alternatively you are basically reducing the emission that comes out from this. This is also another area where things are being done and at almost the minimum cost. Because one of the challenges that is faced by ship owners, how much I can invest on my old ships. Of course, the new ships, they come with their technologies, but the old ships, there's always a challenge of how much a ship owner can actually invest. And it's fair to ask that question, because sometimes there are some segments of the shipping which are not doing well. So you have to justify your investment as well. Of course, we all seek the same goal of protecting the environment and reducing the CO2. But then with someone having an asset, an old asset, that is not doing well, the ship owner is left with very few options. So they need to take the right step and the right investment at the right time. And there's, of course, there are other things that comes with as business strategies, and which I will also highlight in my coming slides in that one. Then we speak about fuels and what is required to be done. What are the new innovations in terms of fuels? There are a lot, and we can continue talking about a lot of options. But then there are also challenges that how available are these fuels? Because today when we talk about hydrogen, for example, green hydrogen, is it available?
Correct.
The answer is, as of today, it's still at the testing stage. We speak about LNG, for example. there are also a debate whether fossil LNG is a green fuel or it's not.
Yeah,
you know?
correct.
So that is also another thing. So maybe fossil LNG is not green, but a bio LNG is a greener. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So it can actually you can continue with that one, but then how much is it available and where it is available? So today, if you convert a ship to start burning LNG,
Yeah.
then you are also limited in terms of where you can fuel that ship.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great.
So there could be areas where you are left with no fuel.
Yeah.
It's basically like using an electric car, yeah, with no charger.
Yes.
You know, and then somewhere in the middle, here we'll speak about in Oman. If you are heading from Muscat to Salalah, which is 1,000 kilometers away,
Yeah.
using an electric car, I'm sure at one point of time you will have to stop and refuel using petrol.
Yes.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. Or basically,
An
you lose-
infrastructure requirement as
it's
well.
the infrastructure.
Exactly.
The same thing goes when it comes to the ships. Today there are very few spots around the world where LNG can be bunkered
Right.
or taken on board the ship as fuel. So that is also a wider community, a worldwide community, and whether it's ship owners or authorities to provide these solutions. Now this takes us to the last part of my presentation, what is basically what Asyad is doing in terms of going for this transition strategy. So we have it in 3 stages. So and it's every now and then. So from 23 to 25, we have a strategy, and this is at the very initial. And it's basically, we have already defined our directions and priorities. Now it is to establish a clear financial impact of all opportunities.
Yes.
Again, as ship owners, we need to be seen that we are actually adapting the right strategy with the right cost. Yeah. And then also there's a development of alternative energy plan, and what sort of enhancement in terms of the CII efficiency that we are seeking. Is it an operational or a technology enhancement, or is it a new energy in terms of having the fuel? So there are different aspects, and of course there are different pillars for each direction. Then from 25 to 27, years 25 to 27, our strategic objective is basically to ensure that our ships trade between A and B. Yeah. Initially from 23 to 25, we will be accepting ships that trade also in area Charlie,
Yeah.
as
Yes.
Captain Agrawal mentioned. Of course, we don't want any of our ships from 2023 to trade in D and
D,
E,
yeah, D,
because
yes.
that is basically an extra burden.
Yeah.
So back to 25, 27, that is the strategy that we have, that all our ships will be between A and B areas. And this is basically, we'll do that by having a proper main engine reduction or derating, decreasing the water resistance, so that the type of paint that we use on our ships, the underwater ships, will be of a high technology.
Right.
We are, as a matter of fact, now talking to a new paint maker or hull paint maker,
Yeah.
which is hopefully going to provide us with a nano technology in terms of applying the fuel, the paint into the ship's hull.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
this is, again, it's going to be added value because it's going to be done
Great.
in Dukum
Yeah.
dry dock. So
Yes.
it's another good thing.
Right.
Interesting to see that you are shedding a light on the training and coaching of crew
True.
to safety optimize energy consumption. This is one of the highlighted
That
issues.
is very important, because nowadays you can have the technology, but if you
Yes.
don't have the
Yes.
right people to
Absolutely.
deal with that technology,
Absolutely.
then there's no
Yes.
point.
Yes.
Correct.
And this is what we're looking at it. So that coaching is, though it's coaching and training is for the crew, but also for the office staff,
Correct.
so that everyone is kept actually engaged
Right.
with this motion, and everyone is also kept aware of what we are going through and what is required from us. So
Yeah.
that coaching and training of the crew will continue,
Yes.
and to make sure that we safely optimize on the energy consumption.
Fantastic.
Because today when we deal with specific fuels like LNG and methanol, these needs to be dealt with extra care in
Yes.
terms of safety. Then the final one is basically what is our strategy for 27, year 27 to year 2030. And it's again to establish a full energy development plan program. So this will include that our ships will be built only to operate, well, will be built so that they operate as rated as A.
Class A. Yeah.
So they will all our ships, coming new ships, they will be A rated.
Yeah.
And then also we will make sure that, of course, while doing that, you will need to make sure that the ships are also commercially attractive, because you can build a high-tech ship,
Yes.
but it becomes very expensive that a charter will say,
No,
thank you very much, you have other options.
Great.
Okay, this is very
Exactly.
important. So to come up with that
correct.
sort
Yes.
of equation, it
Totally
is
agree.
quite challenging. And basically, we make sure that the design of our ships fits within the most cost effectiveness of in terms of energy sources, and we make sure that we can be one day stand up and say our ships produces the minimum
Yes.
CO2 possible. Basically, that is in nutshells. Of course, there are a lot to be discussed, but then about this, it's all about how we can plan
Yeah.
and how we can implement and execute our plan in the way that is required to
Yes.
not only to comply with the industry standards,
Exactly.
but also to make sure that
Internally.
we believe in protecting our environment.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
That's all.
Especially you shed a light on a very interesting point and connected strongly with the objectives and the new technologies,
Yes.
which has been highlighted by Captain Mohit. So from both of those technologies being highlighted from Captain Mohit and Dr. Ibrahim, I come to you and your expertise, Professor Talal. And because, mashallah, your expertise is going quite wide, from a maritime to offshore platform that we were talking about before, and to academic also, and to write a thesis. And you have gone through also the classification society that you have already worked with. So bringing all of that together and speaking about it from a technology that has been highlighted from both of them, where do you see the major contribute and I can call it as low-hanging fruit in the maritime industry that we can benefit from? Of course, they have shed a light on so many of the aspects, but anyone prefer that you see from your expertise?
Yeah, thank you, Ahmed, and thank you to Captain Mohit and Dr. Ibrahim. It's a very thorough presentation, and it's a quite a developed industry when we look at it as a maritime. When they started in the beginnings, started based on assuring the uncertainty. There is an uncertainty in the shipping, certainty in the designs, and there is a vendor and there is an owners, and here where the classification society came into the equation. But what has happened over the last decade, there was lots of awakened call into the international communities to start looking after the emission and a baseline emission, and as well a target to reduce that emission. And when it started initially, like through 2015 or the SDG goals, Sustainable Development Goals, that came with the package as well a funding mechanisms. So there is lots of funding that's associated with the SDGs, where they look to like CCI or carbon intensities. Then after 2017, there was more shifting to wide the spectrum, not only the CO2. They call it the whole of acid gas emission, including methane, including other type of acid gas emission, where they take it into account as a CO2 equivalent by taking into the calculation. So the industry is moving forward in terms of the monitoring and as well the definition. And here exactly where we do have some advanced technologies when we see it as a remote sensing. For example, I give you an example, the satellite. The satellite used to just focus on mainly a qualitative oil spills 7 years or 10 years ago. Now we see the satellite push the boundaries further to not only capture the CO2 emission, but to capture another type of gas like methane. So that's a new frontier where, like we as a maritime communities or as an industry, we do have tools now currently existed in the market or existing in the R&D stage that quantify live data in terms of emissions beyond just initial design or initial calculation. And this is one domain. The other domain is the energy efficiency. So as mentioned by Captain Mohit and Dr. Ibrahim, you might go for details clean energy, but is that efficient? Is that giving you the right return of investment, giving you the right payback period? We are in a countries and ecosystems where we don't have a carbon tax or a carbon incentives. We don't have a drive to have full electrical ships flying from A to B, for example. But we do have a drive where we see an industry that can grow from energy efficiency point of view. And if you crack down the ship design from engine rating, for example, to the utilization of the steam,
Yes.
we believe the industry has been advanced to be energy efficient, especially if we look at from how energy efficiency in the steam application, that's a huge domain. If we see how also the power generations or the VFD concept as a controlling of a continuous motoring, especially regarding the motor application. There is a lots of application here.
So where do you see the steam industry here in Oman?
So Oman, for example, if you look at especially from steam application,
Yes.
if you calculate how much steam, like ton per day, as a total, as an industry total utilization, there's maybe more than 1.5 million ton per day as utilization across all the multiple industry. So we have seen advancement in terms of steam generation, steam, for example, steam condensation, as well the heat recovery steam generators, where it has been mentioned as well in the slide of Captain Mohit. That is still, I see it not fully utilized as a potential from heat recovery steam generators. But in the other industry, we see it, for example, in some of the downstream. The heat recovery steam generators is part of the domain. So this is a large energy efficiencies. It can give you like up to 8% to 10% of the total energy utilization or energy reduction.
Interesting to hear that, and to know this about the steam and its utilization. And I'm not sure whether there is any thesis or any references that we can rely on, or we can shed a light on that's been utilized or has been at least in experimental period, if I may say.
Yeah. There's some best practices published, like by some ASME standards. We can share it.
Yes.
We can reflect it as well on that standard.
Okay. So another aspect I may just come back to Captain Mohit related in relation to a terminology being used lately in relation to green hydrogen. They keep calling it as new kid in the block, which is not anymore the terminology. But along with the green hydrogen, they are utilizing the other terminology. I don't know whether the audience, some of them, they might just aware of that about greenwashing or sheen green.
Yes.
So how would IMO control the greenwashing? First of all, if you can just shed a light, what does it mean? And then you can just highlight what is the IMO is doing to control the greenwashing.
Sure. So green sheen or greenwashing, it's more like an eyewash towards stating that we are green.
Yes.
And but in the background we do nothing about it.
Yes.
So I mean, to see the plan laid down by Dr. Ibrahim, and it is brilliant to see the years, as per years, a practical plan laid down.
Yeah.
And that is a thing which can be followed. So green sheen is not to state that we are only going to do checklists,
Correct.
We are going to monitor and we are going to measure what we are really leading to as far as the emissions are concerned. We are going to plan and control it. So IMO's whole strategy to let the reports flow in on the IMO platforms on the DCS and the EOMRV is actually the requirement to control the green sheen and make sure that actually what's going on is being monitored well, right?
Yes,
So
that's right.
yes, that's the idea behind the green sheen and the greenwashing, to make sure you're doing it actually.
Exactly. But we do have as an IMO, from an IMO perspective, to control as a checklist, and it's been enforced.
Correct.
On all of the ship owners and
these are the things. That is why the reporting started when they came up with the milestones of stating that you're going to report the declaration of the emissions every year. Then the sulfur 2020 started. now it's going to be IMO 2023.
Yeah.
So this is what is leading to that you are now going to be accountable for what you are doing.
Exactly.
Right. We
Exactly.
need you to report and let us know how you are green.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Not just stating it. So that's
Great. I think we'll start, or we will open the floor to the audience to ask questions. I believe we have got a number of them, but before I just head to the questions from the audience, I will just complete the set of questions which has been already shared with us before the webinar itself. Dr. Ibrahim, I believe you just almost quite of answering the question that it's shared with me previously. It's related to ammonia and hydrogen utilization aboard the ship.
Yeah.
So the question is related to the DMV's Maritime Forecast to 2050 report. This report is talking about ammonia and hydrogen on board fuel technologies will be available for shipping industry within 3 to 8 years. So where do you see as a SIAD shipping is located in this timeline? Are we there in 8 years? Are we there in almost 10 years that we can utilize the ammonia or green hydrogen?
Well, first of all, I'm sure that when DMV came up with this statement, they must have done a lot of research and background work. Though it will be a little bit challenging, to be honest. It is, again, as a technology, it could be available.
Yeah.
But then what we are concerned about is the infrastructure.
Yes.
So if it is actually available in one part of the world,
Yeah.
for it to be implemented in a different part of the world is very expensive
Yeah.
in terms of the cost of the infrastructure itself,
Yes.
and in terms of the regulations in the countries that are
Yeah.
going to implement this. And this also takes another thing on board ships. The storage of ammonia, for example,
Yeah.
is very challenging because ammonia is, beside being dangerous,
Yes.
and this is where we spoke about
Exactly.
coaching and training, because it's odorless, so
Yes.
a person can actually work there. If there's a slight leak of ammonia,
Correct.
then it becomes a little bit, unsafe.
Absolutely.
And then also on top of it, the size of storage tanks on board ships.
Yeah.
So today ships are designed actually to carry cargo.
Yeah.
They are not designed to carry fuel.
That's absolutely.
Okay, this is, we need to understand the difference.
Exactly.
Because cargo is the revenue.
Yeah.
And this is basically why a person or a
Right.
company is going to own a ship. It's
Exactly.
basically to, as Professor Talal said, you need to understand the ROI of this
Yeah.
investment.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you cannot realize that ROI,
You're right.
it's becoming
That's right.
challenging. So nowadays, for the carrying like the normal hydrocarbon fuel,
Yes.
is about 30% in terms of capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, this actually can go beyond double the size when it comes to a fuel tank storing ammonia,
Yeah.
which means that your cargo capacity is going to be reduced.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
So
correct.
it's again
Yeah.
back to the question. I'm sure DMV have done a great job,
Yes.
and it is there. But seeing it from the perspective of a ship owner,
Yeah.
this is going to be quite challenging
Yeah.
in
That's
in
correct.
many aspects, as I have highlighted.
Yeah. Lovely answer.
Yeah.
It comes in the middle of the question then. Okay. So next question is to Professor Talal. It's related to because of your experience, and you have been to Sultan Qaboos University, and you have seen the capabilities of a nationals, and of course you have an exposure also to a number of theses that also other professors from Oman. So where do you see the national technicality capabilities? Are we there yet to address this and to cope with the change, and at least to capture what's going on around the world right now?
Yeah. I think the beauty of maritime industry is an international industry where it has a full of diversity in terms of the background, in terms of educational systems.
Yeah.
But we do have standards where we can sit in the same common ground. I think Oman has been all the way into that industry. Once we come specifically about the green or the energy transition into the shipment,
Yes.
I think will be a need to build skills based on the global standards.
Yes.
Especially once we come about talking about the carbon accounting, the carbon inventory building in terms of scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. I think that's deserve more focus.
Yes.
And currently, as we see, for example, the second non-determinantal contribution report issued by Oman is as a submission part of the International Paris Agreement and the United Nations initiatives, where they had the commitment to lower the emissions by 7% by 2030.
Yes.
Okay, so this 7%, we need to map how much of maritime that can contribute, and then how much of skills or what type of skill that we need to build it on. There will be a need for skills and capacity building in terms of measurement and verification on the, I'd call it, in the upcoming 2 years. That's my feedback.
Shukran. Let's head now to the audience questions. The first question we have from Saumya Sundar. The question, I think I'll direct it to Captain Mohit. What will be the investment required to execute this energy transition strategy?
It's a
It's
nice
quite
one.
a small question, but
And
it's
this
quite,
one-
I think,
yes,
quite a pages to be
the
answered.
question is very, very small and the answer is very long. But in a nutshell, basically investments is up to how the ship owners and the stakeholders can actually bear it, and you can start at the lowest level. The basics are, like I said earlier in the presentation also, you have to start somewhere by monitoring first, to making sure what is under your control, that has to be targeted and controlled. So small thing like a auxiliary engine usage, boiler usage, you see these don't need any investments. You need to understand the utilization of these machinery aspects on board. That's the first thing that we can hand over to the industry.
Correct. Correct.
And after that comes your pockets for going for all different sorts of stuff that is available, and you can invest as much as you like, but we need to lead first to reduce what is totally in our control, which is free of any investment.
Okay.
It's just our mind and time. That's about it.
Yeah. But the second question is related, or it's been brought to us from the LinkedIn. Umayma Baqar. I think I can direct this question to Dr. Ibrahim. She's first of all, this audience is innovative technology broker, international business liaison. So the question is saying that any chance of having maritime transfer routes between Omani ports? Before I just hand over to you, I believe we do have as a ferries, but maybe Dr. Ibrahim is having another aspect of this to address this question.
Okay. So it's between ports, of course. As of now, you've actually answered the question. There's a connectivity between the Omani ports. Yeah. And if we, and when we say connectivity, there's the commercial goods that goes between the major ports of Oman, Salalah, all the way from Salalah to Khasab, including Duqm, Sahar, and Shanas, as well as Khasab, Suwaiq as well. But then when it comes to the passenger side of it, the passenger part of it, then of course between Shanas to Khasab, and then between Masira and Shanna internally, and there's Halaniyat and Salalah. But then how can we apply what we are talking about today in here in terms of hydrogen?
Yes.
You know, or in terms of green energy.
I think that's meant to be.
Then yes, I think we can start as pilot projects, and I have seen this happening already in Belgium, for example.
Yeah.
There are few ferries in testing phase that work with hydrogen, and which there's nothing stopping us from, of course, doing the same thing in here, provided that we start actually to produce the hydrogen in the best manner that we want. Now the country is taking very aggressive steps towards implementing this, and towards becoming also amongst the pioneers in the world to have the green hydrogen industry.
Yeah, and I think this question also can be addressed to a similar question from Muzna Raisi, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. What are the best environmentally friendly transportation options I believe you shed a light already on this one. I mean,
Yes, well, there are a lot of it, but then it's mainly, of course, the one that produces the least CO2.
Yes.
Simple. You know, go for this one, and there are different options
Definitely.
that we can go with.
definitely. I think there is a question that we can address this question from LinkedIn, which has been brought up by Peter. Although this question not being related to the theme that we are talking about as new technologies for greener shipping, but if Dr. Ibrahim would like to address it, it's related to any update plan regarding MERSIC and the high rates from this next plan.
Well,
It's not clear for me. I mean,
I guess maybe that's a commercial question.
yes.
But nevertheless, again, I mean, Maersk is a major player in the market,
Yeah.
the international trading market, and as colleagues from the industry, we see that they are taking very good steps towards implementing
Yeah.
the green solution as well.
Next question is from Ahmed Al-Ghafri. Do you have an accurate measures of CO2 on board or any sensors? Maybe I can split it to two from Dr. Ibrahim, and next I can go to Professor Talal. So I think it's related to one of the projects that maybe is going on at the background.
Yes, we have a project with a local SME
Yeah,
to develop sensors
Yeah.
on board the ship to measure the CO2
great.
emission, as well as we also have, which is right now scrubbers, for example, on board. They actually also give you an indication of the CO2 emission,
Yeah,
and this is available on majority of our ships.
yeah. Anything you would like to shed the light on
Absolutely,
in relation to the sensors and?
Yeah, exactly. I think in terms of the sensor, there is a very good rapid development from spectrometry technique that can cover the CO2 and as well the other type of acid gas emission. Currently, we see as well the remote sensing is quite advancing through the satellites. It's open data, it's available. You have one satellite every 24 hours scanning 5 kilometers by 5 kilometers if you have the right coordinate. This is for CO2 and methane as well, because methane also can be compared to the CO2 equivalent
Yes.
once multiplied. So yes, so the sensing is quite development. There is quite
Yeah.
an already very well established development in that.
Yeah. Next question from Anonymous. Is related to the challenge, how we can tackle the challenge on the organization basis and to engage in R&D, research and development activities. How serious is Asyad shipping with this regard? Before I just direct it to Dr. Ibrahim, I believe if you may heard about Asyad in general have signed an MOU with the University of Germany, especially with Oman Center of Hydrogen. This kind of an agreement is related to the research and development. You would like to shed a light on that one, Doctor?
Well, I think it's important to understand that here when we talk about the Asyad as a group, we have already adopted this approach, and simply we believe in it. A new department is being formed in Asyad called the Sustainability Department, and it is to deal with all the requirements when it comes to the green energy, and we have people there who are very much into the business, and they sit in different committees, not only locally, where we've also signed a lot of MOUs with different parties in the country. We are also participating externally and outside Oman. And we are taking this very, very serious when it comes to asking about how serious Asyad is doing it, because today Asyad is looking after a lot of business that may be looked from outside as emitting CO2. But the fact, and this is because of that reason, we are also involved heavily to try and reduce that impact on the environment.
Yeah, great. I think we start getting quite a big number of questions, and we're just running short of time. I may just direct the audience, please communicate to us through our group email. It's related to qhsse@asyad.om. I'll try my level best to cover some of the questions and to direct it to the guest speakers. In a rush, a question from engineer Faisal Zijali: is Asyad in line with COP26 initiatives for climate change? I believe now we are heading to COP27 in Cairo, Sharm el-Sheikh, and Asyad is part of the workshop which is going on at the moment for 3 weeks, which has been initiated by Oman Vision 2040. This workshop is being dedicated for the decarbonization initiatives from all of the government entities, including the government companies, and Asyad is part of that thing, I can assure you, and part of Asyad members is participating and giving their initiatives as well. I think I'll need just to wrap up the time. We are just, I believe, running short of time. I can see the questions, and I'm really thankful. And before the end of this session today, I mean, I'll need just to thank my guest speakers, Captain Mohit,
Thank you.
Dr. Ibrahim, and Professor Talal. Thank you to all of you, and extending my thank and gratitude to the dear audience who are investing their time and trying to participate with the questions. Unfortunately, we'll just love to cover all of those questions, but as I said, our email, just I have addressed it in advance. I think from my perspective, I was just writing a notes based on the guest speakers' comments that we're talking about. I hope this has been an enlightening session, and hope we can see you again, of course, in the future. Perhaps green transition is not something that we can do within a button touch or something like related to a quick win. But this is related to a research. It is related to an open-minded. This is related to people collaborating with each other, so that we can find and address all of this challenge together. And of course, we will see you, inshallah, in the near future with a new topic, with the new guest speakers. Till then, stay tuned with Asyad, and please communicate with us, as I said from the beginning, through Asyad group QHSSC at asyad.om. Thank you so much again, and this is Ahmed Al-Rawahi from Asyad group in this webinar today. Wishing you a lovely day. مع السلامة. Thank you so much.
Well done.
نحن أسياد البحار يا مان، بخطانا المجد سار يا مان، نحن رمز للفخر شعارة بأعلى منارة، مجد وحضارة وإرث العظيم، عماني شعارة بأعلى منارة، مجد وحضارة وإرث العظيم، ويقول العماني هذا زماني بهمة وعزيمة ونهج السلام.